On November 5, 2021, Houston's air buzzed with anticipation. The city seemed to hold its breath, the sky heavy with clouds that hinted at something brewing, not just in the weather, but in the hearts of everyone who had gathered. There was a sense that tonight would be unforgettable, for better or for worse. Thousands streamed into NRG Park, drawn by the promise of Travis Scott and the spectacle of Astroworld. The festival grounds pulsed with energy as fans from all over the country converged, eager to lose themselves in the music and the moment. The air was thick with excitement, and the crowd's anticipation was almost tangible. The bass thumped through the crowd, each beat reverberating in our chests, uniting us in a single restless mass. The music was a living thing, surging through the sea of bodies, making strangers feel like friends, if only for a night. Every song, every note seemed to draw us closer together. Laughter and shouts echoed above the music as people snapped selfies, waved their hands, and celebrated the freedom of being part of something bigger than themselves. For many, this was a long-awaited escape, a chance to forget the world outside and surrender to the rhythm of the night. But as the crowd swelled, personal space vanished. We became a living tide, pushed and pulled by invisible forces. Our bodies pressed so close that breathing felt like a shared act. The boundaries between us blurred, and the energy shifted from excitement to something more intense. At first, the crush felt like part of the experience, uncomfortable, but expected. People exchanged glances, some smiling nervously, others frowning as the pressure mounted. It was a test of endurance, a rite of passage for festival goers, and most believed it would pass. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, the mood began to shift. The playful shoves and laughter gave way to anxious looks and desperate movements. The darkness seemed to amplify every sound, every jostle, every heartbeat. Waves of pressure rippled through the crowd, faces shifting from joy to anxiety. The collective mood changed in an instant, as if everyone sensed the same invisible warning. Smiles faded, replaced by furrowed brows and darting eyes. A creeping sense of unease took hold, a silent alarm that something was wrong. People began to look around, searching for exits, for space, for relief from the growing tension. The excitement that had filled the air was now tinged with fear. The crowd was too dense, the energy too volatile. Every movement sent shockwaves through the mass of bodies, and it became clear that control was slipping away. The festival grounds, once a place of joy, now felt like a pressure cooker. As a countdown began, tension peaked, all eyes turned to the stage, breaths held, hearts pounding. The anticipation that had once been thrilling now felt suffocating, as if the entire crowd was waiting for something to break. People braced themselves, struggling for breath. Some tried to push back, others simply closed their eyes and hoped the moment would pass. The air was thick, heavy, and every gasp felt precious. The roar that greeted Travis Scott's entrance was more than excitement, it was desperation, a collective cry for release from the mounting pressure. The music surged, but so did the chaos, and the line between celebration and panic blurred. For some, it would be the last sound they ever heard. The storm had arrived and there was no turning back.
At 9:02 p.m., what began as a night of music and celebration took a sudden, terrifying turn. The energy in the air shifted in an instant, and the crowd, once pulsing with excitement, erupted into chaos. The mass of people surged forward, bodies pressed so tightly together that movement became impossible. Some were lifted off their feet, carried by the force of the crowd, unable to control where they went or even to breathe freely. Screams that had moments before been filled with joy and anticipation now turned to cries of panic and fear. People stumbled and fell, vanishing beneath the relentless crush, while others desperately tried to pull them back to safety. Within minutes, frantic 911 calls began to flood emergency lines. The outside world was just beginning to understand the scale of the disaster unfolding inside the venue. In a desperate attempt to get help, fans climbed onto stage equipment and platforms, waving their arms and pleading for the show to stop. Their voices, however, were lost in the roar of the music and the confusion of the moment. On stage, the music and lights continued, seemingly oblivious to the struggle and suffering unfolding just feet away. The show pressed on, the spectacle masking the tragedy below. At 9:47 p.m., officials declared a mass casualty incident. Yet, astonishingly, the concert continued for another 25 minutes, as if nothing was wrong. For those trapped in the crowd, every second felt like an eternity. Each beat of the music seemed to mock the suffering below, the relentless bass echoing the pounding of terrified hearts. The disconnect between the spectacle and the reality was surreal and haunting. When the concert finally ended at 10:12 p.m., the devastation was impossible to ignore. The crowd, once vibrant and alive, was now exhausted, traumatized, and forever changed. The ground was littered with shoes, phones, and personal belongings, silent witnesses to the chaos that had unfolded. For some, these were the only traces left behind. Medics rushed in, overwhelmed by the sheer number of victims. They worked frantically, performing CPR and trying to save lives, but the scale of the tragedy was staggering. The festival's once electric energy was replaced by stunned silence, broken only by the wail of sirens and the shouts of emergency responders. The night air was thick with shock and disbelief. We entered the venue seeking music, joy, and connection. But as we left, we walked through a disaster zone, haunted by the memory of what should have been a night to remember, and what instead became a night we will never forget. In the aftermath, the tragedy became deeply personal for so many. What began as a night of music and celebration ended in heartbreak, leaving a community forever changed. The pain was not just a headline, it was felt in every home, every school, every empty seat at the dinner table. 10 lives were lost, each one a world of dreams, laughter, and love. John Hilgert, just 14, a boy who loved baseball and made his friends smile. Brianna Rodriguez, 16, a dancer whose energy lit up every room. Ezra Blunt, only 9, a child with a boundless imagination and a family who adored him. Young adults like Mirza Baig, Rodolfo Peña, Madison Dubisky, and Franco Patino, each with their own passions, ambitions, and loved ones left behind. They were students, friends, siblings, and children, each with a future that should have stretched out before them. Jacob Jurinke, Axel Acosta, and Bharti Shahani, names that now echo in the hearts of those who knew them. Their absence is felt in classrooms, on sports fields, and in the quiet moments when families remember what was lost. Each name represents a universe of loss, a story cut short, and a ripple of grief that spreads through countless lives. Hundreds more were injured that night, some with wounds that will heal, others with scars that may never fade. For many, the pain is invisible, carried in their hearts and minds long after the world has moved on. Survivors carry trauma, guilt, and memories of terror. Some struggle to sleep, haunted by what they saw and heard. Others find it hard to talk about that night, afraid no one will truly understand. The true cost of this tragedy extends far beyond numbers or statistics. It lingers in the silence, in the empty spaces, in the lives forever altered. These were not faceless victims. They were sons, daughters, friends, and classmates. Each one leaves behind a legacy of love and memories cherished by those who knew them best. On that day, they woke up excited, looking forward to music, friends, and joy, unaware it would be their last sunrise, their last embrace, their last laugh. Honoring them means more than mourning. It means demanding accountability, seeking answers, and working to ensure such a tragedy never happens again. Their lives call us to action, to compassion, and to remembrance. Their stories must not be forgotten. We owe it to them, and to ourselves, to remember, to speak their names, and to carry their light forward. Attention turned to Travis Scott, the festival's face and headliner. For over 20 minutes after a mass casualty was declared, he performed as chaos unfolded. Fans pleaded for help, but the show continued. Scott's history of encouraging wild crowds fueled criticism. His response, an awkward apology and funeral offers, rang hollow to many. Legally cleared, he remains judged in the court of public opinion. For many, he's forever linked to the tragedy, a showman blind to disaster. The question lingers, was this accident or the result of a reckless culture? In the absence of clear answers, conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed Astroworld was a demonic ritual, the death's intentional sacrifices. Theories drew on numerology, lyrics, and stage imagery, searching for sinister meaning. For some, it was easier to believe in dark forces than in corporate negligence. These narratives offered order to chaos, turning victims into martyrs. Theories spread online, reflecting deep distrust of celebrity and power. The whispers of ritual have become part of Astroworld's dark legacy. The festival's design fueled the conspiracies. "See you on the other side," the event's slogan, took on a chilling meaning after the tragedy. The stage resembled a fiery portal, with Travis Scott performing before what looked like the gates of hell. Merchandise and visuals were dissected for occult symbols. Was it just edgy art, or something more? The line between spectacle and omen blurred. The event's dark aesthetic became inseparable from the real-life horror. The spectacle itself became a haunting symbol of loss. The search for justice began with hundreds of lawsuits against Travis Scott, Live Nation, and others. A grand jury declined to indict anyone criminally, devastating victims' families. Civil settlements were reached, but details remained secret. The lack of transparency in criminal charges left many feeling justice was denied. Some progress was made, but much remains hidden behind closed doors. The legal process feels unfinished, with accountability elusive. For many, the system protected the powerful, not the victims. The quest for true justice continues. Astroworld's tragedy was not unforeseeable. Organizers were warned about overcrowding and had prior experience with dangerous surges. Internal documents revealed knowledge of risks, yet little changed. The event's safety plan was vague and dehumanizing. Victims were called Smurfs. Security and medical staff were underprepared and overwhelmed. The disaster was a result of ignored warnings and systemic failures. New regulations followed, but they offer cold comfort to grieving families. These deaths were not random, they were preventable. Astroworld stands as a grim lesson in corporate neglect. The blood of innocent fans wrote this warning. Many believe a cover-up followed the tragedy. Confidential settlements and lack of criminal charges fueled suspicion. Key evidence and testimony were kept from public view. Live Nation resisted scrutiny, even blocking its CEO's deposition. The system seemed designed to protect the powerful, not reveal the truth. Whether by design or default, the result is the same unanswered questions. The shadow of a cover-up darkens Astroworld's legacy. Years later, Astroworld remains an open wound. The official story blames systemic failures. Others see darker motives. The truth is obscured by secrecy, settlements, and unanswered questions. Survivors and families are left to wonder, was this negligence or something more? Without full disclosure, healing is impossible. The tragedy is a warning about the cost of spectacle over safety. The search for truth continues, by journalists, victims, and a community unwilling to forget. Until the full story is told, the ghosts of Astroworld will linger. The world waits for answers that may never come.